Coming up. Yeah. Come up now. Can't stop me. You coming up.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another Hop series. We are excited about today, right?
I
This
am.
is our He Said, She Said that we do the end of every month. And oh my, we have a doozy for today. But first, I'm April Anderson. Y'all know me by now. I've been on here since January, at the beginning of the year. So, and this is my beautiful host, Morgan Harvey.
Hello. How are you?
How you doing?
Good. I came on the couch for this one.
Oh, I know, right? This is like a couch discussion. So we got to be really relaxed. And I'm sitting in here like, I don't know how this conversation is going to go, but I'm excited about it. And it needs to be discussed from the male and the female perspective. So, and for
Absolutely.
all different types of relationships. So I'm looking forward to it. So today I am in Panama City, Florida. So if anybody has been following me, a friend of mine, you see I've been posting the flyers about the I Am Alive conference, and we're having the first part for the Envision You business on Friday, and then the illustrious Mr. David Imonitier, 40-year-old multi-millionaire, is going to be there on Friday and talk to us. We're going to have meet and greet and session. And then Saturday is the conference. And I have I'm one of the speakers Saturday morning at the conference. And then Saturday evening, we're having a service, a church service. And I'm one of the speakers there for the church service. And I'm doing praise and worship, which is
Yes.
I've done that in a while since I had my church. And actually, I take that back. When was the last time I did that? That might have been 2016. I have to say that because I was over choir then. So that was different. So yeah, I'm a little nervous about that. But everything else, I'm good. I'm good with teaching. It's like, wait a minute, you want me to sing? I haven't done anything since 2016. Wait a minute, what? This all Dr. V's fault. I'm gonna blame her. But
Yeah.
actually here with Dr. V. I'm in her home. I'm staying here for the week. So we get to act silly. If y'all have not seen out her live from this morning, you need to go back on my page and watch it. The shenanigans we had going on, but it was power packed. There was a lot of good stuff in there. So go back and watch that live from this morning.
Yeah, I've got to watch that. That surprisingly didn't come across my timeline. I typically see a lot of different things, but yeah, I didn't see that this morning.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So
that'll be
yeah, so
after.
we did. Yeah, so that's where I am. I am here. Hello, everyone that's on. I see Stacy. I see Jason. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being. Yes, Stacy. She said it was powerful and hilarious. I know. Stacy, you know this conference this weekend is going to be fire. Like I am excited about it. I'm like sitting on the edge of my seat. I know it's going to be great. But
Hi,
so
Jason. How are you? Oh, he said it was powerful too.
yeah, it was. It was. So today, our topic for the He Said, She Said is what does submission mean to you in a committed relationship and or marriage? Now, we're not talking about if you're just dating and you're dating multiple people. No, there's no submission there. You're still doing your own thing. But when you are exclusive, you're committed, it's leading towards marriage, or you're married, what does that mean to you? So we have some people that are going to come on and we are going to discuss. Mo, you got anything you want to say before we bring our guests on?
No, am I supposed to be saying something?
I don't know. I was just asking. See, you enjoy just sitting there and letting me do all the talking. Why is that?
Because sometimes sometimes it's like I'm watching the show. I get all into what you're saying.
Oh my God. So you
And
zoned out?
on the other end.
Yeah, Pete said she thought you were.
Okay, and I was like,
Oh
wait,
my God.
was that my cue for something? Did I?
No. This is us. We're together.
Okay. Yeah.
If you just sitting there like, oh, where's my popcorn? Let me just sit and
Girl,
watch.
I literally was sitting here like, oh, I definitely should have popped some popcorn for this. This is
Y'all,
popcorn
please,
worthy. Okay.
can y'all please pray for my host, please? Please pray for her.
Listen, it's been a long day. It's been a long, long, long day.
Oh, I
So-
believe it. I believe it.
But no, I'm like, I am super excited about this. I am the person who loves to play the devil's advocate. I am also someone who's very open to hearing what others have to say, but I am also very opinionated as well. So I'm not, you know what I mean? I don't shove my opinion down someone's throat, but I at least voice what I think and where, I'm coming from. And that's my thing. I don't, in the words of my friends, I don't yuck anybody else's yum. But what works for me is what works for me. So I'm excited, to see what we've got going on here, because definition of submission, whether it's cross-generational lines or even just gender lines, there's a lot to talk about.
Right.
And it was a video or a reel that I had seen that really kind of just sparked that conversation, and I was like, what a way to throw a topic out there for a segment. So,
and I think I like what you said about just voicing your opinion, because we're all on here going to be adults, and we all have our own opinions in the way that we look at things. And the key is to not force what you believe or what you think on somebody else. We're all, if you don't agree with what someone says, then we're going to agree to disagree and leave it at that. But everyone has their own opinions on things. So that's what we want to share, that, because the people that are going to be watching, we don't know what they're going to gain from this, but we want it to be helpful. So hello, Christina. So nice to have you on here. Stacy said the live this morning shifted her morning and really blessed me. Yeah, because I did take a jab at you. I remember saying that. But I love you. You know I love you. All right, so we don't want to lengthen the time. We want to bring our guests on. And I don't know who all is on here. I sent the link out. Oh my God. Look at there. So there is my cousin. In the little screen is my cousin, Ty.
Yay.
And I invited him on, and he was like, are you sure? Yeah, Ty, I'm sure. So Ty is married to my blood cousin, Tara, and I actually am living with them temporarily until I get my own place. So you can imagine the fun that Ty makes things in the house. He gives me a different name every single day. It's just something. I don't know. I can't even repeat it or say one day, because he changes them up every single day. Hey, Ty, how are you?
It's another beautiful day. Can't complain. It's not worth it anyways.
Right? Facts. And we have none other than Prophet John Michael Massey on, who's been on with us before. And I roped him in, and he was like, oh, I thought you were giving me this just to watch.
I was going to be all in here looking and listening.
How you doing?
No. We're going to discuss
How is everybody
all together. So I'm glad to have the men on, and then we are on. And then where is Smack? Smack was supposed to be on here too. Smack, if you are listening, I need you to log in. Okay, come on in here so we can get this. So you guys have the topic for tonight on submission. What does that mean to you? Now, what I will say, Ty is married and Mike is getting ready to be married, but he's been married before. So this should be really interesting. I'm not married yet. But Mike.
Come on, put the yet in there.
Mike.
Yes.
Yet.
Yet. And Morgan is married, so we're going to look at it from all different angles here. So I don't know who wants to answer the question first, and let's get into the discussion. This is non-scripted. We don't have a list of questions. We just want to discuss and let one lead into the other. How about that? Who's going first?
Not me.
Not me.
Okay. I'll jump on out there.
Thank
I
you.
don't mind. So I think the question was, was it um,
What does
submission?
submission
Was me
mean to you
in a
in a,
committed relationship?
a committed or married relationship? Yes.
So when I looked at committed relationship, uh, to me they both mean they have the same meaning.
Mm,
In other words, they have the same meaning as far as uh, you serve that person. You're not the dominant one over that one. You're not a ruler. That's that's not the meaning of submission. That meaning of submission takes on a whole different meaning. Now, if you look at Ephesians 5:18, when Paul breaks down the whole thing, he's talking about when he first talks about submission. The first submission he talks about is to one another.
mm,
And then he goes into husband and wives. So he tells us that the wives are supposed to submit to the husband. But the only way she can do that is if he is submitted to the Lord and they both are submitted unto the Lord. So you're not going to submit to somebody. Well, you can't. You're supposed to submit somebody even if they're not following the Lord, because it's not about that. It's about you submitting to the Lord, and then by you submitting to the Lord, then you're going to submit to your husband. So it's not a slavery thing. It's not a thing where women don't have rights. They have all the rights in the world. I mean, if you think about it, women are just as equal as men. God just made us stronger. But
mm,
the thing is that we're not to be, we don't take that word submission and be some type of ruler or abuser of a woman. Uh, uh, God calls her the weaker vessel. Now,
mm,
when I look at submission from a committed relationship, the thing that's missing out of there is because they have neither one has no one to submit to. They can't if they're not saved and they can't submit to the Lord. They
mm,
can submit to each other, but there has to be a foundation. So if God is not the foundation, then how can you submit?
mm.
Because He's the foundation of it all.
Right.
It's like Jesus talking about. Remember, He told the story about the houses, how to build a house. And he said one was made of rock, one was made of sand. And he said when the winds came and the storm blew it, it beat up the house because the foundation wasn't right.
Mm,
So submission has to have a foundation, and that foundation has to be Christ.
mm. So what about, and I don't know if Ty can, if he must have had a call or something. I don't know. How about for people, because we all understand, hey Corey, we all understand that everyone does not have the type of relationship with God that is written about in the Bible. They may
Right,
have a belief, they may do their own thing, they
right.
whatever. How do we still define this for that group of people who may be doing things a little bit differently? How do you define it for them? What do you say to those people?
To those, then it would be there has to be a level of trust.
Mm,
There has to be that commitment. There has to be that that love there, that chemistry, that balance there, that the accountability there that they're going to have for one another. If they're going to submit to, if they're going to have that submission, then they're going to have to learn how to do for one another and not let one do everything.
yeah, yeah. The one thing that I have heard
Ooh,
people say for years They get this incorrect definition for submission. So as soon as you start talking about submission, they equate that to being a slave.
Yeah.
And that is not how it is. And then everybody goes off on a tangent, and then you have, oh, I can do just what you do, and you don't tell me what to do. And it's not about that. It's not about that, because you made it very clear about submitting to each other.
Right.
So I'm going to give a little bit for you. You're going to give a little bit for me, and we're going to make this work together.
Right.
It's not about one dominating the other one. It's not about that.
Not at all.
People need to get that clarified and have a greater understanding, because if that's how you're going into a relationship or a marriage, then it's doomed from the beginning, because it's always going to be a power struggle.
Yeah,
It is.
ego is definitely one of the biggest killers
Mhm.
of marriage. Um, well, listen, I don't think I would say I disagree with anything that you say, but I do. I told you I love to play the devil's
Yeah,
advocate.
I love that. When you said that, I said, "Oh, that's gonna be good." She like to play.
Yes,
I said, she like to play devil's advocate. That's
I
gonna be
do.
good.
I do. I
That's good.
know of a couple that very, very strong Christian beliefs, and especially when it comes to submission. So, how or where do you feel like the boundary should lie if one or the other partner is doing something that is going to not be beneficial for
Mm,
the family as a whole?
that's
Because
good.
I have seen some women be quote unquote submissive to a fault. And then when stuff hits the fan, now
Can you use the proper F? Don't say a fault to a fool. That's when they're
well,
submitting to a fool.
yes, but it's like you and the wife, or it can be the husband, but in the situations that I know, the wife ended up holding the bag or not being able to do certain things, or if it ended up resulting in, divorce or death. Now you can't even move the way you would normally move because you didn't necessarily agree with the moves that he was making or the moves that she was making because this person is wearing the pants, this one is the head of the household, I'm going to just submit. And now what?
So, me, I would say in that case. Now, I thought about that myself earlier coming on. I thought about that same question. What happens when there's a meeting where they not necessarily bump heads, but one is trying to go this way, the other one's trying to go that way, and they both saying, "Well, we should do it this way, and you should do it that way," and then now you at a standstill. But you've been taught to submit.
Mm,
So I was in that same thing. I was like, "What do you do in that case?" And
yeah.
it's brought me back to relationship. I mean, if you, especially if you're a Christian, then you're gonna have to fall on your relationship with God, and He's gonna have to tell you what you need to do. If not, if you're not the believer, I think you just caught in what is called a power struggle.
Yeah.
And a power struggle is one of the hardest things to get out of. I mean, you now somebody's will has to submit. Somebody has to give in and
Mhm.
compromise
Yeah.
and say, you know what, uh, we've been doing it my way. Let's try your way.
Yeah. I can definitely relate to what you're saying, because in my previous marriage, it was that way.
Yeah.
Um, we were not working together, and I was looking to them to lead and be the lead, and we just worked, and it was never like that. So how am I supposed to be submissive to him
Hmm.
when he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing as the head of the household, my husband, my partner? It was never that. it was me carrying the load. So me being submissive was not happening. After a while of me just about pulling my hair out with this foolishness, like, why am I even still here?
Yeah.
Because you have your own agenda. And it's not that I wasn't communicating, I was communicating and letting him know, hey, can we do this together? Can we do this? Can we work on our budget together? Can how who's going to pay these bills? But
Right.
it didn't work that way. It was me. Every single thing fell on me, everything. So then you want to talk to me about being submissive to him? Really? No. So at some point in time, I'm like, you know what? I've had enough of this. I'm done. I can't do this anymore, because the frustration had built up so much that it started affecting my health. That is a
Right.
no-no.
Yeah.
That's where
Definitely.
it's gone too far. And so I'm not submitting to anybody. Then I need to get out of here is what I need to do. So people recognizing when nothing is ever going to change. You've done everything you can. We did
Mhm.
marriage counseling. I prayed. We went to marriage counseling a few times, but I already knew, because that it wasn't going to go anywhere, because that wasn't his desire. He had his own agenda. So that's when I stopped. So recognizing that and knowing when it's time to it's over. It's done. I can't do that anymore. I will not do that.
Yeah. I feel like I have
Ooh,
certain
pick me,
boundaries.
pick me.
What
Go
was that?
ahead, Ty. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Ty.
First off, let me apologize. I know that the camera and stuff isn't on. I actually just secured a uh, very important contract, so I'm kind of doing like double duty right now and everything. It's one of those get it done right now type things. But
Congratulations.
Yes. Congratulations.
God is still good to me. Trust me on this one. But let me paint a picture for you. You got to get a mental picture real quick.
Yeah.
You remember back in the day when we used to do this thing called write in cursive?
Mm-hmm.
When you write in cursive, let's just take one word called the word us. U-S.
Yeah.
Before you can add the S, you must first complete the U.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Okay.
And the problem is most people come into and when they are completed, very few people maintain who they were as an individual and then add it to a person that's going to highlight who they are instead of take away from who they are. So in essence, when a woman is coming into a relationship or when a man is coming to a relationship, one of the things that I teach is this. You don't need to be in a relationship until you've achieved the goals that you've already set. Because once you get into a relationship, that person now becomes your priority and that person becomes your responsibility all at the exact same time. Because if we go from the biblical perspective, like the man of God just said back in Ephesians, the very first thing that he said was, submit ye one to another. And
Yeah.
the very first account of submission from person to person was actually Adam submitting to
Adam.
Eve. Even though it had a negative result, we can still see when two people come together in agreement what can actually happen. So when we get in a relationship, we feel that we have to abandon our morals, we have to abandon our common sense. And Paul said it like this. He says, "Follow me as I follow Christ."
Mm-hmm.
Like in a situation where I'm leading my household, everybody's happy. The flip side of it is at the moment I start tripping or doing something other than what I'm supposed to do as a leader, as a man, as a provider, trust me, my wife doesn't say, well, I'm just going to let you do it. No, she has full access to everything from start, not just in an emergency case. She has full knowledge and full ability to communicate with me at any point in time. And that's what happens. People think submission, and they think that I have to take this role. No, you're taking who you are, and you're adding it to another person. That's why one puts 1,000 to flight and two puts 10,000. But if I abandon all my gifts, skills, talents, and ability, calling myself, trying to acquiesce, or that is a curse word in marriage. It's a curse word in relationship. It's this word called compromise. I don't do it as a compromise. I do it because I love you. So I know that in my house, I let my wife run the finances. It's not because I'm just like handing something off to make her feel better. She's a great administrator. And she didn't stop being an administrator because we got married and submitting. She's bringing that, and her level of submission is not to sit up here and do what I say do. Her level of submission is saying, hey, we're coming into a plan, and I recognize your role in this plan. I recognize my plan, my role in the plan. And so by putting that together, because we've come to a point of agreement, I submit to that. Just like when a person apologizes, they're not apologizing because it's for the other person, it's for their benefit. I'm now free of that bondage of walking in fear, walking on eggshells. And the other thing about when you acknowledge a fault or something like that, you're not acknowledging all the time that you're wrong. It's just that in this case, that other person's way may be better in that case. So submission is not just doing what somebody tells you to do. Submission is coming into agreement with a greater plan.
Wow.
I like that.
Wow. My cousin dropping them tonight. Go, cousin.
Mic drop.
Wow.
You know what? But one thing that he said that really stood out to me is you have to come in a complete person. I am so tired of hearing people say, "Oh, I want somebody to complete me." What? No, you need to be complete already, because if you're not complete and you try to bring somebody else in and you want them to complete you, and if they're not complete themselves, then what do you have? The shaky foundation is not going to work, and everybody's going to be jacked. Your household is going to be a mess. And I feel that discussing, if you are at the point of being a committed relationship and is now getting ready to go into marriage, discussing this stuff and really understanding where each other stands as far as all that's involved with marriage or committed relationship, you got to talk about that stuff ahead of time.
You
Like,
do? Yeah.
you just have to.
You really do?
Yeah, absolutely.
Have the
Even down to the
difficult
nitty gritty of who's responsible for certain things.
Exactly.
And what are your expectations when it comes to, financial situations, sexual situations, emotional support, even spiritual support, you know what I mean? All of those kind of things. But a lot of people shy away from that because one, I don't think a lot of people understand how to truly love, which is to understand and accept somebody for who they are and not trying to change them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you don't agree with that, in the words of my therapist the other day, he was like, so are you going to choose your boundaries over connection? Which one are you looking to keep at the end of the day? Because yes, and not to say that if you choose or you value the connection over your boundaries, that you lose the boundaries, no. But there are just certain things and certain ways that when dealing with the person, you're going to have to deal with them on that level because that's what they're bringing to the table. And that's because you really want that connection that's in there.
Yeah.
So being able to, one, accept somebody for who they are, but then two, be able to hear someone say something that they might not like or that might rule them out. There are a lot of people that are eager to get married, but then you see what the divorce rate looks like. You see how easy, you know what I mean? We're coming up on 5 years. This has been the hardest 5 years of my life. And there's been so many other things that have been thrown into this on top of just, figuring this out. And my husband and I have known each other for almost 20 years. So it's not like we're just someone, I met him right off the street. Like we had a serious, honest, and true friendship, before that. But we also come from, I think, a generation where it has always been a power thing. It has always been an ego thing. I think in our culture, our men have been stripped of the ability to be able to honestly be the head of household, which has caused us as women to have to take on roles and to not allow us to be as soft and submissive as we normally would be or would naturally be, because we have to be playing multiple roles. We have to end up, being in situations that had I think our culture and just our community in general not been stripped of certain things, it might be a little, different as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Mike, hold your thought because I know you have something to say. I want to acknowledge some of these comments
No,
here.
I'm still in both of their stuff because I'm still in that love and boundaries and that thing with us and it. Yeah,
yeah, that's it. I
I'm.
like that.
I
Listen,
look. I
he's
wrote
hot
that
when my
down right
husband
there.
comes home.
So yeah, I'm still in both of them.
So our Facebook user, and I want to say, who was that last week? What's his name? Tim. Is it Tim Miles? Tim, I want to say that's who it is, but the Facebook user said people don't understand what submissive truly means, and they need to work together in a relationship, which is true. And then Stacy said, God will deal with you or your spouse or both of you, and that takes submission to God. Absolutely, Stacy. She said it's hard to submit when you lose respect and trust in each other. Now, those are serious facts. Ty, everybody is saying congratulations on you getting the contract. So that's in there too. And
Yeah.
Jason said,
Yay! Are they looking
res-
for a job? That's my little joke.
Jason said responsibility and accountability on both partners. Absolutely.
Exactly.
We both have to be accountable and responsible to each other. I think
He also said that submission means to lower one's will for the other. I like that definition a whole lot because that,
yeah,
like I was saying before, you got to take the ego out of the situation, or else
right.
it's bound to be doomed.
Yeah, we're not two animals like growling at each other to see whose growl is the
Oh
largest and who
Lord.
gets the control. That's not it. It's about working together. And some women are thinking that we're the only ones that's supposed to submit and the men don't submit. No, there's a level of submission for
That's
them
right.
to us,
That's right.
just like it is for us to them. And Ty said, Adam submitted to Eve. Come on. That was the first example there. All right, Mike, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm gonna
Well,
let you.
y'all just took everything. I was just getting ready to say,
Come
but
on now. Come on now.
I
You got
y'all
more
did.
to add.
Uh, I think
Well, let me throw something out. He get his thoughts together, real quick. I just want to add this one little
go
small
ahead.
factor. Be careful on the use of words. Words have meaning. Words have power, and we often use words incorrectly to validate a generation. We use words to validate a stance. I'm old school. You tell me something is bad. No, it's horrible. It's not good. And then when we use words like we have to set boundaries, technically speaking, if you go from the biblical point, the moment you set a boundary, you're automatically shutting me out. And the moment that I'm shut out, I'm no longer capable of doing the full thing that I'm here to do. That is to support, that is to stand by, but that's also to receive from you. Because take for instance, if my wife were to set a boundary like, well, I'm not going to talk about this, that becomes an avenue for entry for anything, Like take for instance, I always say this: anything that comes between you and your spouse, or in between you and the person you're in relationship, is closer to them than you are. And because you set that boundary, or because you don't know how to filter that correctly and letting the person know where you are, that automatically is starting to set up a whole system of failure. And then if you even look at, I like visual things. If you write a name and people want to keep their last name, they'll write their name down. My name is Tamika Smith hyphen Jones. So technically speaking, you just put Tamika Smith minus Jones. So I'm already telling myself that I'm getting rid of this thing. So I'm not disagreeing with boundaries, but we also have to be very clear about when we use words and terms like that we don't take that and use that and weaponize it to say, well, the reason why I cannot do this is because of ... or my past experience. Well, my question for your past experience is this: do you want to be right, or do you want to reconcile? Because the only way you're going to do that is you have to have a level of vulnerability to say, hey, look, this is what happened. Or one of the approaches that I use, and it actually worked for a little bit, then I stopped, so it stopped working. But I would tell my wife, I know your intentions were not to offend me when you said or when you did ... But here's the reason why it did. And then as we begin to talk and find other things out, we found out that, hey, I had some hurts and some issues that I was dealing with from yesteryear that I was inadvertently taking out against her, which hindered us from having a close personal relationship. And going back to what my blessed sister was saying, it does to a degree limit the ability for a person to become sensitive and open and feminine and things of that nature, because now you have to take on my role as opposed to just simply being who you are. That would be that. Tag, Brother Mike, is on you.
Oh, so
Boy,
Jason said words are powerful and have meaning. He took the words right out of my mouth. All right.
yeah,
So we on point here. All right, Mike, go ahead. You got it.
no, I was just going to say, I think as men, if we take out the macho attitude and the the big man attitude of I'm the man and she's the woman, and have the mindset of we're going to work this thing together and we're going to do this thing together, then we'll go much further. Because when you have an attitude like when he gave this illustration of us and talking about the you, I mean, if you leave the you out and take that, I mean, there's nothing left but I. And now you start walking around, well, I'm this, and I'm that. Well, I'm the one who's supposed to do this. So now you walking around like the enemy, because that's what he does. He's full of pride and he's all about self. And it's never supposed to be about self. It's always supposed to be about you and your mate. And then we're supposed to look at our strengths and our weaknesses. Just because I'm not good at finances, so that's something Stacy's gonna be handling. Uh, I'm not afraid to say, babe, hey, that's a weakness of mine. Why would I sit there and be so prideful and say, hey, I'm gonna handle this and don't really know how to handle it?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's all about working together. That's what the whole thing is about. It's about working together.
And that,
Knowing your partner's strengths and your partner's weaknesses is going to help y'all too.
yeah, that honesty and openness is very important, very key,
Yeah.
because I'm not going to act like I got it all together and
Oh
everything is cool and
man.
I can do everything. I can do a lot, but there are some things that I can't do. And actually, if I think about it, there's some things that I don't want to do, because in my previous one, like fixing things around the house, I can do it, but do I want to? No, I don't want to do that.
No.
I don't want to wash my car. I don't want to do all of that. And that's simple stuff, but it just shows that we have to be open and honest about where we are and what we need and
Exactly.
Absolutely. And those are the boundaries that I'm talking about. I'm talking about healthy boundaries, because there's a lot of people who throw around words like triggered, and they throw around words like boundaries and not understanding completely what they are. Boundaries are not a wall or defense against or to divide between you and someone else. Boundaries are for you personally, they're not for me. So the boundaries that I set don't have any bearing on y'all. But at any point in time, if you guys being you crosses my boundary, it is up to me to just let y'all know, hey, you
Hey,
crossed over here.
hey,
Now,
yeah,
what you do with that will determine whether or not you love me or not. Because someone who loves me, not that they have to, tiptoe around it, but they acknowledge, okay, you know what? This just ain't a joke I could tell with Morgan. That ain't something I could say around her. Nah, she doesn't like that. And then keep it pushing. Where there's other people who are going to challenge that. Well, what's wrong with you? It's just a little this. I've been doing this all my life. Those are the people that have a disrespect for a boundary, and that is not necessarily that will cause strife if you have someone who doesn't understand the boundaries that you were setting in the relationship, and saying like, hey, this is not like, no, I don't want to do this because I don't feel like it. No, if you don't want to wash your car anymore and you don't want to be Mrs. Fix It around the house, then that's something that you bring to Mr. Right, and you say, listen,
right.
This is what I'm bringing to the table, but this is also what I would like from my partner. This is what I want
There
to
you
do.
go.
I don't want to have to do that. I can do that, but I don't want to have to do that. If you're incapacitated, if you're out of town, yeah, babe, I know I got it. Or I can also call you and say, hey, guess what? The faucet broke. And you can say, well, I'll be home tomorrow and I'll fix it. Don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
Or here, I'll call the plumber and he'll be at the house in 2 hours. You know what I mean? However it gets handled, just know that you've already set that boundary that it's not that I don't want to do it. It's just
Yeah.
that this is what I'm looking for in my relationship. And a person who wants that with you is not going to have a problem with obliging in that. You know what I mean? Because that is speaking to how to love you.
Yeah, there's a great level of respect that each should have for the other person.
Exactly.
And respect what, well, if I am a smoker, and I'm not, but if I were a smoker and my spouse doesn't like that, then I have some options. This is something I'm going to do, and that might not be a really good example. That's the first thing that came to my mind. But
no, that's a great one because
there's
it was
I'm
definitely
not
one
going
for
to.
us. It was one for us, and it was right before my son was born. And I was like, hey, listen, you got like 5 months to quit. Like that's how the conversation went because you know what I mean. Now, was it right? Did I allow him his autonomy? Did I go no? But at the same time, he also understood where I was coming from, and so then was able to, I guess figure it out. So I had to give him some grace. That he was like, I know we said June 2nd, but
Gotta grace him.
You just, but you summed up everything and so beautifully with that last statement. A matter of giving people grace.
That's right.
Well, we have to give people a little bit of time to grow, to learn, and to make those adjustments. And then like you just said, there's a point in time where we do want to respect everybody's boundaries, and we do want to be able to work with them, but we also have to be able to communicate those things where people aren't guessing, and that's one of those things that we typically end up doing to one another unfairly and unfortunately. And I'll leave you with this because actually I just got a very important message I got to attend to, and I do apologize. I didn't know all this stuff was going to happen today. I really wanted to stay and play, but the one thing that I do want to just leave with just one little passing thought. Oftentimes people complain about their spouse, they complain about their mate, they complain about their partner in the relationship, and I always leave with this one thing: you chose them. So you're not speaking ill of who they are. You're speaking more ill of your
Yourself.
inability to filter correctly. And so when we look at submission, just bear that in mind. If they're not submitting, that has something to do with what you saw and what you did not do to begin with and establish up front versus what they're capable of doing. Because you cannot give a person credit for where you think they ought to be, but you have to give them an opportunity to prove it. And then once they do, make the necessary adjustment.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
That's like my shirt, real truth teller, right there.
But I love you all dearly, and I look forward to communicating with you again.
Thanks, Jai.
Yeah, I'm coming to your
All
church.
right, have a good one. Coming soon, baby. Coming soon. Y'all stay blessed.
So Jason said, we also have to understand that we all have a strong will, which God has given us as men and women, but society has injected that you don't need each other. So once you are ready to get into a relationship, it's already ingrained in you, conscious and subconscious, that you don't need him or she don't need him. Society has duped a lot of people.
Yeah.
Society has done that and given you these false truths about committed relationships. It seems like every time I go on social media, I see another couple that has been married for a very long time calling it quits and they're getting divorced. And so then it has started to affect me like, oh my God, I don't want that, but I'm not in their house to know what's going on. So it's so good to have the conversations with your partner, with your mate, whomever, so you don't end up in that. That open communication is vital, and have that understanding.
I think it was. I'm not sure who it was that said it, but knowing, being that complete person to begin with,
Yeah.
and then really taking that time to know who the other person is, I think is tantamount to that not happening. Like, I think one of my biggest heartbreaks is, what is it, Tia Mowry,
Yes.
her husband.
Yeah.
And like you said, we're not in her home, in their home, you know what I mean? We don't necessarily know what transpired, but I can also understand, as she talks about her own personal growth and certain things, that like, if you're growing and you're doing certain things to try to work on you, and you're realizing that, the person that you were, because the person that I was when I got married 5 years ago is not who I am right now. And it's definitely not who I'm going to be in 10 years. So my husband has gotten 3 versions of me
Right.
over this time. And sometimes people can't subscribe to who you've grown to,
Right.
or who you've grown to is not something that they're willing to, because in their own growth, not to say that everybody's pace is the same or whatnot, but you know what I mean, when you are connected and you have made a commitment, the growth should be something that is a collective unit. So
Mhm.
when it looks like one is growing more than the other, or if the other one is dying or just being completely stagnant and sucking the life out of the other one, I could totally see how 15, 20, 30 years down the line, it's like, okay, you know what, I've prayed all I could pray. I've given it to God, all that I could give it to God. I love you, but I can't do this no more. Like, I can see how people can get to that, extent too, especially if, like I said, one is doing the work, or one is growing and the other one isn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard to grow alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to grow alone. And I think one of the biggest things is us learning how to be vulnerable with our mate.
Mm.
Uh, because and when you become vulnerable with your mate, then you have to have that trust that what you say stays with y'all.
Yeah.
And that tends to be a thing that hovers over relationships and marriages, because sometimes things get released, and then you'll have a moment where it's the heat of the moment, and now things are in the street, and now everybody looking at you crazy.
Yeah.
And then now we understand why people don't want to be vulnerable
Yeah.
and don't want to let other people all the way in. I mean, we you get a small pinky toe in the door, but that's about it.
Yeah.
And
That
then
is.
we never really truly get to know the whole person.
Mm-hmm. Because they're holding back because
Yeah,
that trust is not there.
right.
And that's so important to be able to build that bond with your mate,
Yes.
to where nothing and no one gets in the
Gets
middle of
in.
that. And you have to have such a high level of trust that if I were to come to my mate with something really serious, really dire, I know 100% that I don't have to worry about ever hearing that
Yeah.
again. And then that's where you start, when it gets out, like you said, that's when things start chipping away
Hmm.
at the relationship. And
Yep.
then you get further and further apart. There's no submission, there's no trust,
True.
there's no vulnerability, and everyone is tense. So it's like, and then you end up going through the motions of being with someone, and you're just going through the motions. So
That's
then
it.
you end up, in my opinion, you end up with a roommate instead of a mate. We're just living
Yeah.
together, we're married, or we are committed relationship, we're just going about life, but there's nothing more to that because that trust has been broken. I don't want to talk to you about anything, so then they don't know what's going on with the other person,
Mm-mm.
and then if they
In no
talk to
way
someone
that
else about it.
submission is happening in that situation, like, at all.
Nothing. Nothing.
So
It's
I want to
the
I want
whole
to
thing is just destroyed.
Yeah.
It's destroyed.
Yeah, it's a done deal then. I don't, yeah. So I want to swing back a little bit because I thought about something, what Morgan was saying about, you getting to a point to where I've prayed, I don't know what else to do. I know a couple been married for several years, and um the husband very overbearing, wife very submissive, to the point to where it's really kind of annoying.
Mhm.
And the husband's doing things and saying things, and the wife is not saying anything in response to it, just doing their own thing, as if, but mad about it,
Mm-hmm.
not doing anything about
I
it.
didn't do anything about it.
And
Yeah.
this is long years that they've been married. So what in the world is going on? Like, how do you, and this is a question I'm going to ask, how do you stay in something like that and have a fulfilling life if this is what you're living with? Like, I got to the point where I didn't even want to come home. I didn't want to come home, pay smack.
Hey.
I didn't want to sleep next to him. I don't
Yeah.
even look at me. Like, I just would really like to choke you out right now, to where you don't wake up. I mean, it was
Yeah.
that real. Like, I
Yeah.
had no peace. I had more joy at work. And when I knew it was time to come home, I'm like, I just
Yeah.
plummet.
Yeah.
It's
Why do people do that?
it's very very hard. Uh, I know because I experienced the same thing.
Hmm.
And when you go through that, um, I had people on my job who I would talk to. I had friends in other states I would call and I would just say, pray for me. And but I did the same thing. I would get off work, get almost to the house. There was a convenience store about not even a quarter mile from the house. I would go to that convenience store, park the car, sit there for about an hour
Oh, wow.
because I didn't want to go home.
Oh, my God.
Because anytime your peace gets disrupted, it messes you up mentally. I mean, you're just a total wreck,
Right.
and you really have to get yourself out of that situation. I mean, you just. I was like, Lord, get me out of this. I can't do this because this. I mean, you walk into the door and boom, 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 it's an argument.
Oh, my gosh.
No, nobody wants to go through that. I remember being at work and I was on a forklift driving, and I started having chest pain,
Mm,
and I immediately picked up the phone because all it was stress,
yeah.
and I said, "I will not let you kill me." That's
Yeah.
exactly what I said. No, I will not let you
Eh,
kill me.
How long were you in that relationship?
3 years.
That happened to me too. I ended up having severe migraines, and it went on for like 2 weeks straight before I went to the doctor.
Yeah.
And when I went to the doctor, my blood pressure was through the roof. And the doctor literally was sitting there looking at me, trying to figure out, do I take her, send her to the hospital? Do I put her in the psych ward? Like, what do I do? She
Yeah.
literally did not know what she needed to do for me. And I told her, I said, I know what the problem is. I know what the stressor is.
Yeah.
I know. And he's sitting there in the waiting room. That's the stressor.
The problem out the door.
Right, right. I had to. Smack. Now,
Hello, hello, hello. Sorry so late. I'm so busy here
always,
lately.
always,
So I
always.
apologize. I was on a meeting, but I know we're talking about submissive. I'm catching some of the end. All I can, say is that for me, I can't be submissive if we arguing. It's just not gonna work. You know what I mean? But there are people who look at that submissiveness as, oh, it's like makeup, making up. Nah, that's not. But there
Mm,
are people who are like that. There are some people who don't hold that part of a relationship as having any meaning. It's just, they just look at it as, excuse my term, I just look at it as, you know, um, sex. But if I know we've been arguing for a week and I walk in the house and you just start hugging on me, no, we need to talk.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm the
I'm
same way.
different, and the way that I do is if I know that like there's something on my mind or something I'm not agreeing with, we need to have a talk before we both go to sleep. You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about this and come to an agreement. And if we can't do that, we need to separate because it's not going to be nice. I don't like sleeping back to back.
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying? And
Right.
so I just think that's very important.
Yeah.
Communication is key. When you're talking about relationships, communication is key. Communication solves a lot of things. And then you have to know when it's time to walk away. But you're not going to
Right.
get that submissiveness when you're both angry, or if one person is angry, it's just not going to be as great.
Mhm.
I'm trying to, watch my mouth here, it's just not going to be as great.
Yeah.
The submissiveness, you're not going to get that body rub, or you're not going to get that the water ran, and how you said
Yeah.
that it's not going to be like that. And it's hearing, I don't know your name, but hearing the gentleman talk about the stress on the job, having to park somewhere. That's something that you can't, when you can't come to your own home. That's supposed to be your peace.
Yeah.
There's no way you can, be submissive, but there are people out there who don't look at that part of the relationship as having any kind of meaning. To me, it does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you know
Absolutely.
when I'm submissive, I'm giving you all of me that nobody else can have. But I
Mm.
can't give you all of me if my mind is somewhere else. You know what I mean?
That right. I like that. Get when you're being submissive, you're giving all of you, but you can't do that if there is strife, if there's problems, there's issues, and sex does not fix everything. Like it does
No.
not.
It
That's
doesn't fix
a natural
anything except
need.
for an itch.
And yeah, that's it. It fixes the itch. That's it. But at
That's
the end of
it.
the day, I'm gonna go through this step here because I need this. But when it's done, I'm still mad at you. So we better talk about this and get it straight to make the experience even better.
Exactly.
Right.
Especially for women. Like it's just literally the way we are wired.
Mhm.
So if if there's a tip for men, if
Yeah,
you want to be able to get to the other end of that, then yeah, you need to handle that first because our bodies are not wired to just open up and be vulnerable in a space where we feel like there's conflict. Like just the same as y'all are like, hey, it's not working. Like, hey, we also don't work.
yeah. And I remember just going through the motions. Just
Yeah.
going through the motions. Here, you do what you gotta do. I'm just here.
They used to have an ex that called it maintenance. That's what he used to call it. And I was
I'm done.
I was like, yeah,
You
this is
know,
it's like all the time.
Yeah.
and even with men,
Yeah.
that's why you have a lot of relationships. You know, I've had, I'm just speaking from friends that I know have been in relationships and really feeling the female, but all of that arguing and holding grudges and not communicating. Once again, it comes back to communicating. All
Mhm.
it takes is the right woman to come to anybody, or a man come to a woman, or LGBT, whatever. Takes the right person to come and have that right conversation to say, hey, what's on your mind? Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
I want to say something. I was online researching something, and I saw where two people were in a relationship, and the wife had to start taking care of her mother who was had dementia. So the mother had to move in, and then the husband had a really, one of those marketing jobs where it involved, like, big money sales. So one thing that they always did was when they came home and they were together the wife would say, "Hey, I only got 10%." The
Yes,
husband
I
would be
saw that.
like,
I love that.
"Okay." Yeah, you saw that too. The
Yeah.
husband said, "Well, I got the 90, so we're gonna be all right." So he would cook the dinner or whatever. And then there was a day he came home and he was like, "Hey, I'm only got 20%. This is what happened today." And then she was like, "That's all right. I got the other 80." You see what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
that it's so important. I am really big on communication, and my other half, probably gets tired, but I always like to talk, and I'm very observant, and I like to get off like, yo, like this is what happened today. Get another. Communication is key. That's my whole point in saying that, and knowing when your other half is off, because it could be that 80% that you bring in could be that back rub I need. You know what I'm saying? Could be, and then next thing you know, hey, that's part of, you know,
Yeah.
you already know.
Well, it was like the end of that video was they both came through the door one day and they both only had 20%.
Yes,
And they
right,
said,
right.
and then I was like, when it came down to that, then they both sat down at the table and was like, okay, well, then now we both have to figure out whatever. And if there's
Yep.
nothing else, we putting 40% on the table, and that's what this day is gonna get, 40%. But at least everybody is still putting in what they've gotten, and it was a collective effort. So yeah,
And the honest
And the
truth.
most important part was communication.
Yep. Yep. And being
That
truthful. Like
and
I
being
only have
truthful.
10% today. Or I have zero. I have nothing today. I can't. I don't have anything. But you got to be able to be open about that and be honest.
right. Well, that's
Right.
what Nick was saying about we were talking about, ego, and why would I come to the table and be like, no, I know how to do this and I don't, or this is my
Exactly.
strength and this is not. No, listen, nope, it ain't it today. You got it,
That's right.
or
I
it's one
could
of those
tell you.
situations, like you
Oh,
said,
I'm sorry.
who does something better. You know what I mean? If I'm better at the finances, then yes, that's fine. I can take it on. And that's not me emasculating you. That's not me, saying that you are less
Exactly.
than. But guess what? There are going to be things that you are better at. You know what I mean? I
That's
tell my
right.
husband all the time, I married you because of your math brain. Like, he's someone I can take into the store and I can say, "Hey, is this a deal?" Because in my head, like, my head doesn't work like that. Like, I see certain things and that's what it is. But for him, he's like, he sees
That's,
numbers.
that's
So
it.
Hmm.
yeah, this is that I saw that. I know what my weakness is. And that's not me being less than. That's not me not being enough. It's just there's certain things that I'm great at and other things that I'm not. And I'm sure that there are things that I bring to the table as well that end up, strengthening him in places of weakness. So if you can start to see things like that versus the ego, who's doing this, or like you were saying, well, I'm the one who's only doing this and I'm the only one who's doing that.
Mhm.
That's how
Right.
we get to a place where, I mean, who can be submissive in that situation? That's not, as per Jason's definition,
Right.
being
Right.
submissive at all.
Yeah.
So
I
I'm gonna share this story with y'all because I was in a relationship before, and you know um there were times where I would be submissive but really didn't want to, you know what I mean? Because I was really trying to, gather my thoughts, in this one relationship I was in. And during the time this situation with this young lady happened, because I had just gotten out of something, you know what I'm saying? And by then you just want to continue to, you know, do your thing, what I mean? There's someone here who will listen to me. I had all of that. But by the time that I really started thinking and just looking around at my surroundings, I realized that this person really wasn't for me. That's when I got my mind cleared. And so some of the time when I was being submissive, I was faking it. I'm keeping it real. You know, I'm keeping he laughing at me, but I'm for real.
Fake
I
it
be
till you
faking
make it.
it. Yeah, I was faking it. But then there came a time like, yo, this ain't right, and I didn't want it. You know what I mean? Like you said, April, when you came home, it was like, you know what I'm saying? And that's what it was for me. So in my mind, like my current relationship now is just amazing, going on 5 years. I'm very happy for it because I'm like, in that past relationship, let me go back to that. It was not what I wanted, so I wasn't happy. And it's when I finally got the courage to talk to them and explain to them, I felt kind of bad because brought them into my world during a vulnerable moment. You know what I'm saying? And but I had to be true and tell them, yo, man, half the time we was doing it, yeah, I mean, I was faking it. Like, yo, I
Wow.
didn't, this ain't what I wanted to do. But I had to be real so that they could learn for their next relationship. You just can't be with a person because of who they are, number one. That's why they were with me, for who I am. And because of, of course, the first time it's going to be immaculate. You know what I mean? But then I was just like, yo, this ain't for me. I don't want this. I don't want this. So, that's how that situation, happened. And so submissiveness, to me, really, for me, I have to have that true connection to really be submissive. I just can't be submissive.
Do you think past relationships, and Mike, I want you to answer this first. Do you think past relationships affect someone being submissive in a new one?
Oh, most definitely. Uh, it can affect because a lot of people go through abuse. They go through uh, physical abuse, mental abuse. They go through all these different things that affect them from being the true them. And now they're scared to open themselves up. They're scared just to be themselves, period. And now to try to, and trust has been broken. And now to try to come into a new relationship unhealed
Mm,
and to try to do all that, yeah, it's you asking really, you just headed straight for a downfall
yeah. That
because you didn't take the time to heal and deal with all that past trauma,
right.
and you have to deal with that past trauma moving forward. I made myself a promise when I got out of this marriage. I said I do not want to take anything that I dealt with and be in my next relationship leading to marriage. Because what happened is you will see certain things that you used to see your partner do, your ex do. And now you start going, oh, she acting like, and
Yeah.
if you're not careful, you will call that person name.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So I made a promise to myself I wouldn't put nobody through that
Hmm.
because that's unfair to them.
I
Totally
Yeah.
think
unfair to them.
past relationships and and your childhood.
Yeah.
Correct.
When
Definitely
you get
childhood.
married, I was like, especially when you get married, like your childhood literally is facing you, it's like
It
smacking
is.
you in the face. It wasn't until my therapist, there was something I was telling him, and he was just like, close your eyes. Think about the first time, like, so I had given him a scenario about something that had happened. So he was like, tell me the first time that you felt that way. And I was like, the answer was about 12, 13 years old. And I realized that something that had happened to me at 12, 13 years old that my husband was doing at 38 years old. I was
Wow.
holding him accountable or responsible for. And in actuality, I don't
Mm.
have a qualm with him. It's really was something that had
Don't
happened
know.
when I was a
Okay.
child. So now here I am being like, he ain't this because he won't do this and he won't do that. Or at the end of the day, not that he's completely absolved of what he was or wasn't doing, but where I was placing the blame and where I was putting that, either anger or frustration was misplaced and misguided because it was more about how I was feeling then and how I didn't handle it rather than how I can handle it now. And it was as easy as literally having a conversation and saying, hey, when you do this, this is how I take that. Well, that wasn't my intention. I saw another thing the other men deal with intention. So typically, when we deal with conflict, a man is coming from, well, do this, that, and the third. Well, we're not coming from a place of intention. We're coming from, an emotional as a whole.
Ocean, yeah.
So that's why sometimes we even clash in trying to have conversations about stuff because we're coming from two completely different places. But if you know how the other person is communicating when you're communicating with them, then that takes out half of the problem so that you can really tackle what it is. And
Yeah.
once I told him how I felt, he was like, oh, well, that's definitely not what I was trying to do. It was really as easy as this. And I was like, oh, okay. So now when I walk by and I see something like that, I'm not now feeling personally attacked or feeling like, you know what, now he's just out here to get me. No. Like it was just he just put this here for a minute and I need to chill out.
But things like that take time.
Yeah.
Just like you talked about earlier when you was talking about, you said this is 5 years now. Now, even though you said, well, it was some rough 5 years, but they're growing pains in
Yeah.
relationship. There's growing pains in marriage.
Yeah.
And once we understand and realize and get this thing out of our head that everything gonna be smooth sailing, oh, this is it. Oh, he's still your baby. He's still all that. But I remember the other day, it was sometime last week, and I was sitting here, and the Lord showed me uh, like a clear, like being on a road. There's nothing on the road, and you're driving down this road. You and your mate, you're driving down this road, and that road is just as smooth. And rode down that road for the longest, and on that ride, the road came to the end.
Mm.
And when it came to an end, it came straight into a bumpy road.
Mm.
And he said that's the way marriage is. It's not gonna always be. You're gonna start out just like this, and then sometime down that road, you're gonna hit them. You're gonna hit them bumps in the roads
Mhm.
because you're still learning one another.
Yeah.
Still learning one another.
Absolutely. You see people like married 60, 70 years and they're like, I'm still learning things.
Yeah, they'll tell
And
you right
that's
quick.
like,
I'm
yeah,
still
that's
learning. I don't know him yet. And then we declare we know somebody within 1 or 2 years. I know him real good. I know her real. I be like, I learned that.
yeah.
No, that is an absolute story.
Yeah,
You do
exactly.
not
And a lot
know.
of people tell you what they want you to know at first
Yes,
too,
yeah,
before you get to observe for yourself who they
Yeah.
really are, or they at least get comfortable enough to put down the walls, put down the facades, and now just truly,
yeah,
be themselves. Because you can't help it at the end of the day. You really can't help just being yourself. Like
yeah.
Yeah.
eventually it's gonna fade.
That's why when I was dating, I was like, look, just tell me the ugly stuff. And then that way we can just make a
This is first date
determination.
talk.
Because everybody go put on that facade that, they go, oh, yeah, yeah. I'll be like,
Yeah.
man, in about 6 months, all that's going to fall. And I'm going to see this person that I don't even recognize.
Hmm. Yeah. Jason said that you did the right thing. You communicated to your partner what you've been through. It helps the other party to know how to deal and avoid to trigger those old memories. Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, too, in addition to that, I will add something that you said, Mike, about being healed before going into something else. You have to do the work on you to heal from whatever trauma that
That's
you
right.
experience. And it's vital because the trauma that I experienced in my childhood, in my previous marriage, it came up in that, and that's when I knew, oh my God, I need to deal with this, and I hadn't dealt with it from my childhood. So I had to go through the process, excuse me, to deal with that. So I'm not triggered. I'm not that, and I'm glad that I did because I don't want to take that into the next. I refuse to
No.
do that. I
Yeah.
will not, because I want to go in being authentically April, and that's who I'm going to be.
All
Yeah.
right.
But it also allows you to be more confident in your
There
decision
you go.
making when it comes to that person, because your decision to marry your ex-husband was rooted in that childhood trauma.
You know what? 100% correct. You are looking, because when I think about how things were, I'm like, oh my God, I didn't see
Exactly.
it then because I wasn't at a place to recognize it and deal with, because I hadn't dealt with the childhood trauma.
Exactly. Exactly.
Now going back over it, it's like, oh my goodness. So
Right.
now
Well,
I'm in a
now
place.
adult April can show up in these
Yeah,
situations and make and make
right,
certain decisions versus the child that needed to be protected, taken care of, spoken up for, given space, whatever the case may be. Like
right,
those, I was like, that's why we end up getting into a lot of things. That's why I initially had started therapy. It was one of those kind of things, like, hey, what exactly am I bringing to this table? Because of course I can point the finger like 9 million ways, but I know that, I'm definitely not perfect either. So what is it, from me? And in dealing with those things, it has allowed me to see the type of partner that I have been in this time, as well as how to better be able to communicate with my partner what I need in the end. Because if you don't love yourself, you can't talk and tell your partner how to love you and what you need to begin with. If you're not healed, you're going to be asking for things that at the end of the day is not going to be what you inevitably need. So you'll
right.
just be filling extra space and trying to fill a void that you yourself have to fill, that, only God can be able to fill. And then that person is just nothing but an addition to
Yeah,
what you are.
right, right.
Yep. The unhealed you is only going to hurt you and your partner.
Yeah,
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
That is right.
The
absolutely.
unhealed you.
Well, 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 we have come to the end, and I must say personally myself that this was an amazing show and discussion on tonight. So if you are watching and you didn't share this, you need to share this with everybody. You
All
guys
right.
need to subscribe to the House of Peach so you get the notifications when we are on live or for anything else that's going on. We talked about submission in relationships, in committed relationships in marriage. We're not talking about that dating stuff, because you can be date today and gone tomorrow.
That's
We
right.
want there to be definitive, we are together and we're going to get married, or we're already married, and what that means. And so we've had a number of people. I'm grateful for my cousin Ty, who came on.
Woo.
I'll get to hear
Yes,
all about the new contract. And I live in the house with him and my cousin. So, that's some good stuff right there. And then to Mike, so thankful for you to be on today, and Smack
Oh, I enjoyed it,
in
y'all.
and out. So we appreciate everyone who came on. As always, Morgan, I love you
yes,
dearly.
I love you more.
Yeah, y'all two work good together.
We
Thank you.
do,
Thank
Yeah,
or
you.
not
y'all
ever.
y'all y'all compliment each other. Yeah, y'all compliment each other real good.
And
We
I
do. I
get
think
to
it's the
see
19 thing going on. I'm actually born in April. Her name is April. We got a lot of
a lot of linkage
we
there.
got a lot, we do
Yeah,
got a lot of linkage.
y'all
Yeah,
compliment
yeah,
each other real good.
yeah.
Yeah,
So thank you guys for joining us. Share it out. Share this. Share this. If you haven't shared anything else that we've done, please share this particular one. Please, just everywhere you can share it. People need to see this so they can. There's so many perspectives, so many things, so many good, rich information. I learned something tonight. Next
I
Tuesday.
learned some serious stuff. I need to talk to him. Yeah.
Yeah,
He dropped some stuff. I was like, wow.
exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll be back here again next Tuesday at the same time and the same platform. Make sure you subscribe so you'll know when we're on next Tuesday at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I do know it's 6:15 Central, because that's what time zone I'm in, and it's probably 5:04 Pacific time. Yeah,
Exactly.
I
And it's
think
going to be
that's right.
August.
I know, right?
Holy smokes.
August, end of the year. So many things going to be going on between now and the end of the year. We're excited.
I
If you
know.
are a female entrepreneur and you have not been on our show and you want to be on our show, we want you to either inbox Morgan or inbox me so we can get you on the calendar. We still have a few slots left for the rest of the year. And House of Peach is having an event October the 6th. So female entrepreneur in the Delaware, what would you call it?
Seven? Yeah, technically. Well, they call it the tri-state area, although
Okay.
I'm from Jersey, so the tri-state area is definitely not Delaware, New Jersey, and
Well,
Pennsylvania.
we're having it in
Right.
Delaware. I'm just gonna say that. So if you are interested in being a part of that event, live and in person in Delaware, reach out to each one of us. We will give you the information. Or if you know a female entrepreneur that would be great for this networking event, please let them get connected with us so we can share that so they can be a part. We would love to have you. Morgan and I are going to be there. I'm going to be flying in from Texas and we will be together. Oh, I'm so excited. And I'll get to meet Peach and Smack for the first time. I'm so still low-key jealous that you got to be with them the other day, but I'm going to let that go at some point in time. Not going to be today. So,
hey, guess what? By the way, one of my Hopper thing just said $88 round trip. From here to Dallas. So
Hopper. I do have some money in Hopper that I can use.
Yeah, I would
figure that out.
Put stuff in the Hopper because look, don't be surprised if I just pop up and see you.
You come on. Come on. All right. So we will see you guys on next week. Have a phenomenal rest of your weekend and check out what's going on here in Panama City this weekend. I think the church service Saturday evening is going to be streaming live, but you have to register for the other stuff. So, but yeah, so we want you to join us for that if you're able to. All right, we're done. See you guys next week. Bye.
Enjoy it, y'all.
Thanks again, Mike.
All right.
Yeah, I'm so extra. Express myself, I'm next up. Yeah, one more